Good afternoon. Welcome to the Agape Life-Cast. Today we're going to talk about the tropics. Looking at the Atlantic tropical weather outlook, we can see that we got two things of interest that we need to discuss: Tropical Depression 8 and Tropical Storm Gonzalo. First thing I want to kind of look at is the IR picture for the entire Atlantic basin. First thing that probably draws your attention is Hurricane Douglas out in the Pacific. That is a Category 3 hurricane that will probably cause some problems in Hawaii. It's going to encounter some colder waters before it gets there. May be an issue here in a few days. If we look off towards the east, we see Tropical Storm Gonzalo. Now, it is not near as threatening as it was last night. There's some issues that are causing that, and we'll discuss that here in a minute or two. Right dead center in the middle of your screen is TD8. That's going to be threatening us here in Texas here by the weekend, and we'll spend a little bit of time that here towards the end of the cast. Let's talk about Gonzalo. Gonzalo is forecast to become an 80-mile-an-hour hurricane by the time it hits the islands. That is looking a little bit more doubtful, and the reason for that is seen on our IR picture. This IR picture, what they do is sense the cloud top temperature. And as you can see, if y'all were watching this last night, it looked really good. Doesn't look near as good today as it did last night. And the reason for that is seen on the water vapor imagery. Now, what water vapor imagery does is it takes a look at the amount of moisture in the atmosphere, especially around 30,000 feet and on up. This dark imagery you see here, where the cursor is, that's dry air. Tropical cyclones, tropical systems do not like dry air. And as you can see right now, it doesn't look really good at all. And you got to remember, in the weather world, doesn't look good is really good for people who don't like tropical systems. So Gonzalo is undergoing some pretty difficult times right now. Want to kind of look at what the forecast track guidance is for Gonzalo. You can see that in about 2 to 3 days it has it moving through the islands, and then over the next 3 to 4 days it has it moving through this eastern part of the Caribbean Sea. This time of year is not a good area for tropical systems. It's kind of a graveyard. And in about 5 days it has it right around Jamaica. Now, I kind of want to address this because what does it mean for the United States? Well, in about 5 days, you can kind of see, should be right around in this location here, south of Cuba. So what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the Gulf Coast? What does that mean for Texas? What does that mean for Florida? Well, if you look here, you can see that right around southeast Texas, there should be a really large ridge of high pressure. And over the course of time, as we get into about a week from now, that ridge of high pressure kind of builds. It kind of builds over the Rockies. It kind of ridges down into the Gulf. And if you like hot weather, it'll be here to stay. What that should mean for Gonzalo is I believe that it will eventually shove it into Central America. You also see that you should have a pretty large trough of low pressure over the southeastern United States. So I don't see that Gonzalo is really going to be a huge threat. If it makes it through the Eastern Caribbean graveyard, it'll continue to head into Central America. Probably won't make it through. That's just my guess. But if it does, it should not be a threat to the United States. So let's get to the more interesting topic at hand, and that's TD8. That is going to be a threat for the Texas Gulf Coast here by the weekend. You can see the official Hurricane Center forecast has it coming in as a tropical storm around sometime Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. My guess is probably around noon Saturday, maybe afternoon Saturday, at about a 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm. If we look at what's going on in the Gulf right now, you can see the surface pressures aren't really low. They are around 1,009 millibars. That's really not that low. Taking a look at the visible imagery, you can see it looks very well put together. Compare that to what we saw with Gonzalo. This actually looks a lot better organized than what Gonzalo look like. And if you look at the infrared, let that have a chance to load. If you look at the infrared, you'll see that this is a lot more organized. The convection is a lot closer to the center, and it's a lot deeper. And why that is because there's a lot more moisture to work with. You don't have a lot of dry air. And what I also want to point out is there's a lot of good outflow with this system. What this is going to mean for this storm is it's going to have a good chance of development. And a 50, 60 mile an hour tropical storm is certainly not out of the picture. So as we look at what the forecast models are calling for, they're pretty much in agreement. Now, this Clipper model here, you can pretty much throw that out. This is a climatological model. It means that storms in this position in the past have typically done this. But just throw that out. Ignore that. Anytime you see CLP, that's the Clipper model, ignore it. What you really want to look at are these models here, the TC models, the TA models. These are ensemble models. These are taking the best models and they're kind of blending them and seeing what you kind of come out with. And so you can see that the general forecast track is anywhere between Port Aransas and Rockport area, Port O'Connor. And I would say that's probably a really good guess right now. Remembering that with a tropical storm, especially this time of year, most of your wind and your rain is going to be on the right side. So any kind of problem with wind, and with this kind of a tropical storm, I wouldn't really expect there to be a problem with wind. You were talking gusts to 40, 50 miles an hour, gust. Right along the coast, that's not the issue. The issue is going to be with the rain. One last thing with the track, this is a GFS forecast track ensemble. GFS is one of our global models that we use. You can see that the GFS is not even calling for this thing to really strengthen much. Remember, the pressures right now are about 1,009 millibars. It's only calling for it to go down to about 1,006 at landfall, maybe decreasing a little bit more inland, which is kind of strange, but really not calling for a lot of intensification here. The real issue is going to be the rainfall. If you look at the rainfall, you can see this is the what we call the QPF, or the forecasted rainfall put out by the National Weather Service. You can see that there's a wide swath of 3 to 5 inches over a lot of Texas, a lot of southeast Texas, central Texas. When we see a swath of rainfall like this, we can generally anticipate that there's going to be locally higher amounts, maybe 7-inch rainfall total, somewhere in there. So we could expect some localized flooding. Certainly not anything on the amounts of Harvey or Allison or anything like that, but expect some areas of flooding. One last thing I wanted to touch on is this chart here. This is called tropical cyclone heat potential. I think we're in for a long ride this tropical season. I'm going to be making a lot of these videos. Think of this as the octane in the environment right now, in the tropical environment, in the oceans. Everybody focuses a lot on sea surface temperatures, and that's one thing to look at. This is really focusing on how much energy is in the ocean. And as you can see, right now, there is a lot of energy in the ocean. And I kind of want to go back and show you the difference between the years. If we go back and we kind of look at how much energy was in the ocean last year compared to this year, you can see there's a big difference. This year, there's a lot more than there was last year, and I just can't get that to stay, but that's all right. Okay, so this is last year. This is this year. You can see there's a huge difference. There's a lot more energy in the ocean to work with. This is comparable to what we saw in 2005, where there was a lot of energy in the ocean, especially in the Northwest Caribbean Sea. There's a lot of energy in the Gulf. And one of the reasons, if we can look at this temperature chart, what this is how deep is the 26 degrees Celsius isotherm. And 26 degrees Celsius equates to about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is the kind of the threshold at which tropical cyclones can sustain themselves. And what you see here is you can see that the ocean is really deep, warm, and it's really deep. And you can see, especially in the Caribbean Sea, that you have to go down 500-600 feet in places for you finally to get below 80 degrees. And that means there's just a lot of energy in the tank. So I'll be updating on the tropics. Probably not a lot on Gonzalo because it's just not a lot to talk about, but especially TD8 because I know all the focus is there. So God bless you and have a great day.